Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to our reverse pitch on supply chain and logistics today, presented by SGInnovate and EDB. My name is Tuan from SGInnovate, and I would like to just share with you how power-packed our program today is going to be. So the reverse pitch on supply chain and logistics that EDB and SGInnovate are putting together is part of our open innovation partnership, in which we want to promote the adoption of deep technologies such as AI, data science, robotics across various industries, and help to catalyze corporate startup collaborations. We will start the event with brief opening remarks by Dr. Lim Jui, CEO of SGInnovate, and Mr. Chng Fong, Managing Director of the Economic Development Board of Singapore. Following that, we would delve into a rapid fireside chat on the topic of corporate startup collaborations with Bernard Seald from Changi Airport Group, as well as Lalifa Praskara, who is VP of SAP Foundry, Asia Pacific, Japan, and China. It will be moderated by our friend and partner, Ethan Lim, who leads up the innovation team at EDB. And the last segment, which is also the reason why a lot of you are here, will be the problem statements by our three corporate partners today, which will be shared by Fabien, Head of Innovation at Bolloré Logistics Singapore, Jill Sim, who is the EAJ Transport Director at Schneider Electric, as well as by Essam El-Okda, who is joining us from Dubai, and he is the Global Digital Transformation Director for Supply Chain Logistics at Unilever. Without further ado, I would like to now invite Dr. Lim Jui, CEO of SGInnovate, to give us his welcome remarks. Jui, please.
Hey there, everyone. My name is Jui. I'm the CEO of SGInnovate, and together with Fong, Managing Director of EDB, we are very happy to open this afternoon's session to mark the start of the Open Innovation Partnership. I don't know if you all caught the piece in today's press on the Emerging Stronger Task Force, but the EST released its recommendations yesterday. And the key words, the key themes are digitalization, sustainability, and partnerships. And it intends to actuate its recommendations using Alliances for Action, AFAs. Although AFAs in this context refers to public-private partnerships, the concept, of course, is not limited to them. And what we're doing today could be the precursor of multiple AFAs. This open innovation partnership between the Singapore Economic Development Board and SGInnovate is, I'm biased, I know, but I believe it's an exciting collaboration that taps on each of our organization's strengths to connect open innovation leaders in Singapore and the region, to promote corporate innovation projects and their adoption, and catalyze corporate startup collaborations. To kick things off, we're hosting our first reverse pitch to bring together big companies and startups to address some of the pressing challenges in the logistics and supply chain sector, a sector that has experienced an entire gamut of challenges from a global pandemic to the sudden blockage of one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. Before 2021, who would have thought that a single ship stuck in a canal could be capable of holding up $9.6 billion of trade every single day? Whether it's vaccines, computer chips, PlayStation 5s, supply chains are the circulatory system of the global economy, moving goods around the globe and keeping economies running. However, COVID-19 has exposed vulnerabilities in many of our global supply chains, which have forced many companies to rethink how they build, monitor, and maintain these delicate networks. This is a balancing act that will only get more complicated as businesses find themselves operating in a landscape fraught with political and trade tensions on the one hand, and severe disruptions in the climate on the other. Yet, despite these growing challenges, the adoption of deep tech may just hold the key to unlocking a vast ocean of transformation opportunities. What were once emerging technologies like automation, artificial intelligence, blockchain will become necessary tools, mainstream almost, for maintaining a comprehensive overview of the entire supply chain. Several startups in our own portfolio have already made tremendous headway in these areas. Podcast is a company that's using data to predict cargo demand and forecast arrival times, helping businesses to streamline costs and operations. Another company, Dimuto, is improving the traceability and accountability of foods by digitalizing the supply chain and treating each fruit or pound of meat shipped as a separate digital asset on a blockchain-powered platform. Such granularity in the chain of custody will also eventually facilitate financing of the perishables trade. So this sectoral transformation is only just beginning. Startups play a big role in driving the technologies that's needed to build a more resilient and sustainable logistics ecosystem, as well as augment the capabilities and skills of the people working in it. By harnessing the potential of deep tech, tomorrow's digitalized and autonomous supply chains will help us emerge stronger from this crisis and create economic opportunities in line with the region's booming digital economy. I urge the community to join today's sessions led by our guests, all of whom are industry experts in their own right, to get a better understanding of the pertinent issues many organizations are facing. May these conversations and observations spark new ideas and potential breakthroughs. I take this opportunity to thank Lalita, Bernard, Fabien, Gillian, Essam for joining us today, and Ethan for moderating the Fireside Chat. Before I hand things over to Kai Fong, I would like to once again thank our partner, the Singapore EDB, for helping to make this event possible. And now I hand you over to Kai Fong. Kai Fong, please.
Thanks, Jui, and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending this event. Very pleased to welcome you to this inaugural Open Innovation Series. This whole thing is about innovation. Government likes to use the term innovation, but really, for a bureaucrat to tell you innovation is not really credible. So that's why we sort of work together with SGInnovate. At least they got innovate in their name, and they're a lot more credible that way. And we hope actually to work with what is happening here is that we are mounting a whole of nation, a whole government effort to get our companies, get our startups, get our MNCs here to be able to create new products and new services. And that's really what innovation is about. And one thing we notice about innovation, especially in this new landscape, is that you can no longer do it alone. It's not, gone are the days where companies have huge R&D budgets and they just do it alone. All the trade secrets are kept in-house. But really, a lot of reaching out to collaborate with external partners, some with fellow partners of their size, but many often with startups. Some do acqui-hires of startup for talent. Because I think there's just so many possibilities, and sometimes cultures of a big company inhibit looking outwards and looking for disruptive technology. And we see many more companies in Singapore today working with startups, working with universities, working with each other to create new products and services again. And so having that insight, we thought we should create a platform like this to firstly share for companies to share insights on what is it like to set up your own corporate venture and to collaborate with startups. It's really not easy. I had a conversation with a director of engineering at a technology company. And he shared with us that actually in the midst of trying to integrate a startup that the company had just acquired, it was rough, right? Because it was not only about the operational processes, it was about really how, what products would go into this particular service. It was also about the culture. And similarly, when I was talking to, and it's not just the technology firms, right? I was also talking to someone, a big company, the CEO of a big company in the FMs, in the fast-moving consumer goods space. They just acquired, again, another startup. And one of the explicit things that the CEO did was to say, do not touch this startup, let it run, because you don't want the big company to overwhelm the startup. But even that doesn't sustain itself over time, because actually you acquired the startup in order to acquire new capabilities that you want to integrate in the larger company. So there are many of these challenges. And I think that's the reason why we wanted this platform, so that companies can share openly about their best practices and also share some of the potential pitfalls when collaborating with startups. So to kick us off, right, I thought maybe just to share two objectives that we want to achieve out of this. One, we hope that corporates can learn from one another, especially those who have been successful in partnering with startups to create innovative solutions. That's why in the next session, we have Lalita from SAP and Bernard from Changi Airport Group, and they will share with us a very positive outcome of their experience working with startups. The second thing I hope to be able to do with this is to create networking opportunities between corporates and startups. That's what Jui talked about in the reverse pitch. So because I know that when startups are, capital is important to startups for sure. And, many of you will be going around fundraising. But I think what's even more important than capital is, in my view, what you call the first revenue, right? And because you need a first reference case and your first revenue that people actually pay for your products, that becomes the credible selling point, which you can actually build your startup on. And I've seen the journeys of a number of startups who have just done that in Singapore. And I'm hoping this will be the case where instead of startups pitching corporates, we thought what could be interesting is for corporates to pitch to startups, right? To convey this is the problem that we need solving. And if the startups are able to create a solution out of that, hopefully that's the start of a longer and a more successful journey. So EDB is here, but also SGInnovate is here, and together we will leverage our networks to help both the corporates as well as the startups, and hopefully we'll be able to match all of you together. So today I look forward to hearing from Bollore, from Schneider Electric and Unilever about the challenges, and I hope the startup community will be very interested to take up their problem statements and to create new solutions for that. So in conclusion, I hope you'll find this useful and that we will see successful partnerships born out of this. So on this note, I wish you all the best, whether you're a company executive, a startup founder, or an investor. I hope you will find this event beneficial. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Jui and Kai Fong. I think your remarks have actually set the perfect stage for our fireside chat with Ethan, Lalita, and Bernard, as well as the subsequent sharings by Bolloré Logistics, Schneider Electric, and Unilever. But first, I would now like to invite Ethan from EDB, who will be moderating our fireside chat with Lalita from SAP and Bernard from CAG. Ethan, Lalita, and Bernard, please.
Thank you, Thorn, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ethan from the Singapore Economic Development Board, and I'll be the moderator for this panel. EDB routinely engages companies on the topic of open innovation, and we know that many of you are keen to work with startups and want to learn about how others have done so. So today we are honored to have Lalita and Bernard share their perspectives on corporate startup partnerships. Lalita is the Vice President of SAP.io Foundries for Asia Pacific, Japan, and China, and she's responsible for the network of top-tier startup programs in these regions. Bernard is Vice President Innovation from the Changi Airport Group, and he oversees CAG's partnership network to develop and implement new solutions at Changi Airport. And also, as part of today's session, we also launch polls in between questions for corporates and startups in the audience to share your views with us. So good afternoon, Lalita and Bernard. Very happy to have both of you with us today. To kickstart today's panel, can we ask, why does your company want to collaborate with startups? And maybe Lalita first. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Ethan. Really honored and a pleasure to be in this panel. Thank you so much, and welcome to all the participants. At SAP, why do we want to collaborate with startups? We are one of the world's leading software providers in the B2B space. We thrive about helping our customers run better, and all of the Fortune 500 companies run in some form or the other an SAP solution, and likewise in Singapore as well. Startup for us are an opportunity to grow our addressable market in areas where it's not our core competency, but there is disruption happening in the world around. We know we cannot do it all. They play a very huge, crucial role in developing new solutions that addresses our customers' unique challenges of digitization that's now ongoing, and also the next wave of digitization, which is very fast approaching us, and particularly pandemic is really accelerating that. These solutions, particularly those leveraging emerging technologies, which is very appropriate, in the context of today's conversation, we're looking to get them plugged into our SAP's ecosystem, which is our next gen ecosystem of startups that offers our customers an increased choice. So in summary, we want to collaborate with startups to help us deliver an intelligent enterprise to our customers, and helping our customers broaden their future vision of how digitization would look like.
Thank you very much, Lolita. And Bernard, please.
Hi, everybody. This is Bernard here. Yeah, why collaborate? Why partner with startup? For us, it's a simple thing. We don't have a CAG. We are not an engineering company. We don't have an R&D lab or unit. And at the same time, for us, the opportunity is really in how do we partner with best of class companies, startups, big companies alike, and we co-develop new experiences, enhance the operations. And this is how we see that we'll continue to innovate and keep at the top of our game. As Kai Fong has mentioned earlier on, I think for us, we also, hopefully, the Changi Airport in this partnership can provide the reference client for startups, right? Such that, you work, we can demonstrate a success in Changi Airport and lead you to be able to export your solutions to more clients around the world. So that's why we collaborate.
Thank you very much, Lolita and Bernard. And so for now, we will launch a poll and we would like the corporates in the audience to respond to this question. What is your objective in partnering with startups? Thank you. And thank you for your responses. So Lolita and Bernard, both of you had highlighted that there's definitely value in working with startups. Can you share more about the success stories? And maybe for this question, we'll have Bernard go first.
Okay, sure. I prepared a simple slide, and maybe I just share it because it's maybe faster to do it through a slide. Maybe some pictures. So one story come to mind. This was done about 3-4 years ago. When we did a bit like today, we did a reverse pitch. We call out to startups and companies in Singapore and said, okay, we have a problem. If you would like to spend 2 hours with me, let me share with you what this problem is. So we call this challenge, right? Without getting into too much details, basically, we have our airside, what we call apron airside, and we want to use we want to be able to prevent any intrusion of objects, whether it's vehicle or objects that is blown by the wind, for example, into the aircraft parking stand, which is obviously a very dangerous situation. Right, and we realized that hey, actually we have CCTVs in each of the parking stands. Could we use what latest technologies and video analytics can provide to solve this? To cut the long story short, so basically we spent 2 hours with the companies and we did something that's different. Instead of just putting the problem statements out there, we actually gave them real data. We gave them 2 weeks of our video footage, because knowing the technology, most people need to train their AI. So we said, okay, just sign this NDA. So you don't do funny things with the data. You don't put it on YouTube and stuff, but go play with it, right? And so we get them the 2 weeks footage for one month. 1 month later, we call them back and say, okay, show me what you can do now. We give you a fresh 1 hour footage. And essentially what happens, to cut the long story short, is that now it levels the playing field. Startup and big companies alike are able to demonstrate their capabilities in a very effective manner. You can see these logos are the companies who participate. Some of these are very brand name companies. So it's not easy if you're one of the startups to differentiate just by paper submission or tender documents, how strong your track record is. Through this process, I would say we uncovered a few players in there. Xgera Labs, one of the local startups, was one that did very well in the test, and we went on to collaborate with them. And overall, I think it really allows us to, like I mentioned, uncover the diamonds in the rough, so to speak. And it actually becomes a joy for the companies as well. There was a startup who came up to me and thanked me and said, "Oh, because of this, actually, I didn't win, so to speak. But because of the data you've given me, I've improved my actual product, my solution." Right. So this is one of an example I'd like to share. Thanks.
Thank you, Bernard and Lolita.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much. So SAP.io, we call ourselves as a corporate venture arm of SAP. And we not only are present here in Singapore and in Asia with multiple locations, in all major locations of SAP, but also worldwide. So to date, our portfolio of startups that we worked with who are part of our ecosystem is about 300 plus globally in 9 locations, serving 25 plus industries. In APJ alone, in the last 2 years of inception of SAP.io, we have about 60 plus startups in our ecosystem, which is still scratching the surface from an SAP's point of view, as we are serving 400,000 customers worldwide for us. So when we talk about success stories of our startups, the way we evolve, we call it as a partnering journey with the startups and with their use cases. With all of the startups that work with us, we usually go around taking a theme, because we sell connected business processes, helping our customers around line of businesses, around industry solutions, as well as cross-industry and technology and data management. So across the portfolio of what an enterprise would look like. And we usually take a theme, and then we launch a cohort program on that theme, and then we scout and select startups. And it's been a very creative and interesting way of how we've been scanning the market through a network of partners and accelerators and in the ecosystem. So for our startups that work with us, what we do is we try to curate them in a manner that we reduce the time to value for our customers, which means we get them to integrate to SAP solutions. We coach them on how to pitch to an SAP customer alongside with an SAP sales executive. We do all this in a high-speed lane of about 13 weeks. And to all the partners who join us, or startups who join us ecosystem, we have a joint selling motion through our digital marketplace. And think about it like a funnel. Everyone who works with us in our Foundry programs becomes an SAP partner, and we position them we sell them through our marketplace. Some of them start to evolve where they not only are winning customers in the local market, but are going cross borders outside the country, let's say outside Singapore to Southeast Asia, outside Southeast Asia to maybe Japan, India, and even outside APJ to Europe and North America. And many of our startups have, that we worked in APJ have done that. Likewise, in the other regions have expanded. Now, these startups go on to evolving to become where they make SAP as their reseller. So we sell them on our price list. And we have an account executive who has it in their bag. So it's a very interesting concept of an open ecosystem. And one such example is Big ID, which is in a personal data protection space, a startup that we work in North America. They've not only started in North America, but they've gone far from North America to Asia, to Europe, and even in China. And they, in just 2 years of span, they've evolved to become where SAP is their sole reseller. So it's truly a scale up of an off-payroll sales that you would get. And we wouldn't expect all of them. We still continue to work with all the startups, but it's like a funnel. Some of them go on to becoming, where we become their reseller. So it's not really about acquiring a startup to become part. We let them remain as an independent entity, but we truly give them the scale up through our go-to-market access. We have a number of such startups that we work here in Singapore, which are in RPA area, OCR, different language recognition technologies in deep tech, payments, and a lot of them, particularly in the SME space, who are actually fast following the path of Big ID. And we are really looking forward to many of them joining us, where we become their resellers. So that's how we take the journey through, and we thrive with the success stories of these several startups that work with us.
Thank you very much, Bernard and Lita. So having availing data to startups to refine their solutions, to having a structured process to bring startups through, I think that's very insightful. And so we will run the second poll question, and I am heartened to see that the chat is very active. So we would like the startups in the audience to let us know, what is the most important consideration when you choose to work with a corporate partner? Thank you very much for your responses. And so the success stories that Bernard and Alita have shared have certainly inspired, given confidence to many of the corporates attending today's session. And given your considerable experiences, can we also find out what are the best practices as well as key challenges for corporates in working with startups? So maybe Lolita first. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ethan. So that's really an interesting, two sides of a spectrum, right? Best practices and challenges. And to be very honest and transparent, SAP, we've been in the business 40 plus years. And I think in my entire tenure of close to 17 plus years, having worked in all of the APJ markets and China, this is a very interesting thing. We've evolved in trying to work with small companies and now startups because they're so disruptive and coming up with ideas, right? But I think we've come to a point where we've really understood, or I would say we are beginning to understand how to work while staying as an ecosystem, because there's always kind of pros and cons around it. I think from ASP.io, one of the things that we've successfully defined on how to run, or what's the thesis for us, is again aligning to the best practices about the definition of how we want to drive a win-win-win framework. Because we are in the world of competition, cooperation, and whatever terminology that we would like to have, we all have to coexist. And the pie is big, and we all have to work together. And how do we collaborate to make the pie bigger for each one of us? So our definition of win-win-win framework is one of the best practices that we're trying to see the good output out of it through SAP.io, and we are beginning to evolve in it. A win-win-win is how do we make startups continue to be successful so that they stay as a next-gen ecosystem. It's always, we've heard from Fong saying that you acquire a skill, but are you really evolving at the same pace as what they have evolved prior to acquisition, right? So how do we keep them in the ecosystem and more to join the open ecosystem? How do we, what's the value proposition for corporates like SAP, who are also a software solution provider, to continue to work with the startups as an ecosystem? And third is our customers, and how do we together provide the kind of future-proof their vision of digitization? So that's the win-win-win framework around the value proposition that each party is bringing onto the table and what is in it for each party. And that's been our best practice. Our best practice from an IO is that how do we continue to work with startups, continue to give them market access, continue to enable them around how SAP works with technologies and solutions and use cases, and share our industry best practices, and keep them in our ecosystem. So from an SAP standpoint, how do we change our internal processes to work with nimble startups like the Accentures or the IBMs that we have been working for many years as our partners? And that's the friction we are removing inside our organization to continue to work. And for our customers, is to willing, to showcase that future vision of their vision of digitization. How would that look like? And we, being an innovation advisor, to talk about their willingness to adopt to these startup solutions. So that's a framework that we constantly keep looking at, and we try to get the best output for all the three so that we continue to move and evolve in that journey. And from a challenges, ultimately we're all looking to keep our customers happy, and they are the front and center of everything that we do. And I come from deep go-to-market experience, have been in merger acquisition. It all comes back to who's your customer, and we always have this saying in our sales world that you are a hero or a zero of a quarter. So we all look for who's that customer who's opening our doors. And startups today that we are working truly open the new doors for us when we are talking to our customers. So from a challenge perspective is, I think all of us are looking at that market access. My experience and our SAP.io team's experience, particularly in Asia Pacific and Japan, is going beyond early adopter customers. We always have early adopter customers who have willingness to adopt new technologies. These are our marquee customers, and we always go back to them with every and each customer saying, hey, will you look at it? We need your reference case study, because we are also in the selling world alongside you. And it's about how do we cross the chasm between proof of concepts to real projects. And that's been one of the big topics. And how do we get mainstream customers to adopt to the solutions and say to the startup solutions, say, hey, this is the world we are going to live with. You need to have players like SAP, but you also need to augment these with startup solutions that can actually create more value for the data that you're having in your landscape with you. And how do you really differentiate and create that experience both for internal employees as well as for your own network of partners. So I think ultimately that's the challenge that we face, and ultimately to get into that mainstream customer adoption, it all boils down to the innovative use case. And this is a question we always ask the startup, anyone who comes across to SAP IO saying that we would like to work with you, is, are you solving a very unique need of a customer's challenge? Because that's what is important. And that's what will get a startup from being just a partner of SAP to becoming where we are the reseller down the funnel. So again, those are the best practices, a win-win-win kind of a framework where all three parties are triangulating. And the challenge is to get beyond an early adopter customer. How do we get that?
Thank you very much. And Bernard?
It's a very big question, so I'm just going to focus on one best practice and one challenge maybe. So for the best practice, I think one I would advise is that always do a site walk, all right? Regardless of the product you have, even if it's a digital app, the digital app is consumed by someone who is probably on the phone. So get to that context, right? Do a site walk, and I would say, and I learned this the hard way, right? It's very easy to get caught up with, oh, let's have challenge, let's put the problem statements up there, let's have everything on paper. I understand it, and everyone has that. Both the corporate and the startup has that inert so-called anxiety to jump to the solutioning, all right? But actually, a lot of things is uncovered in a site walk, a site brief. You see the thing. Certain things that the corporates take for granted, so-called the domain experts, they don't put in the problem statements, but it may not be intuitive to the startup. Same thing, certain things that the startup look at and they will test, oh, actually, do you have this additional pain point, this problem, and it's uncovered. So one best practice, I would say, do a site walk. And to those who are on the call who are Singapore-based, actually, that's your biggest so-called advantage in a way. CAG work with many companies, foreign startups and local startups. Obviously, it's harder for foreign startups, especially with COVID now, to come here. But if you're a local startup, if you're a startup, push the corporate. Oh, can I do a site walk? It won't take too much of your time. If you're a corporate, push your startup. Come. No, I understand you probably got the thing already, but no harm then checking again. Come, take a look. That's one. Challenge I have, or rather challenge I will call out, again, a common pothole is that there's this common myth that always people, a lot of our innovations are centered around technology, but technology is usually not the only answer to solving the problem. All right, so it's a common enough known thing, I guess, but a lot of us do stumble with it sometimes when we come to project. So for the corporates, I would say, don't expect a magic answer. Oh, it's a plug and play solution. The technology can solve everything. You probably need to also look at and you hold the magic in your hand as well. Okay, how do I change my operations? How do I change the process? Who do I need to train? Okay, so a very simple thing that I usually look is technology, process, and people. Usually we have to look at these few things. For the startup, same thing. All right. Don't cocoon yourself, say, oh, I'm just a technical guy, I'm just a technology provider. No, you are the solution provider, right? You are the solution provider, and for all you know, your technology is but your means. You're just better at this technology than your client, so to speak. So how do you use that technology to maybe solve more than even the client has put on the table for you? So that's what I think. That's all.
Right. So thank you very much, Lalita and Bernard. So that was the last question, and I think thank you for today's discussion. It has been certainly very insightful. And so on behalf of both SGInnovate and EDB, we'd like to express our heartfelt appreciation to both of you. And so now we will run the last poll question, and we would like both corporates and startups to answer this. what is the key success factor for corporate startup collaborations? Thank you for your responses, and thank you, Bernard and Lalita. And so before we end today's fireside chat, I thought to relate open innovation to the Avengers movie. And even though all the superheroes in the film want to save Earth from the snap, they first needed to learn how to work together. So to each of the corporate and startup present today, we believe that each of you has a superpower, and we will continue to create opportunities like this to help you and others learn about your superpower and how we can work together for a greater purpose. Thank you very much, and over to you, Tuan.
Well, thank you very much, Ethan, Lalita, and Bernard for that conversation. We are now entering our third segment of the event today, the reverse pitch itself. So on this note, I want to share a little backstory. A big part of what we do at SGInnovate is to build a very strong deep tech innovation community. So on a yearly basis, we'll bring together tens of thousands of startups and investors, corporates, researchers, students, as well as government international partners. And this is a very vocal community, which is similar to what we are seeing in our group chat today. I love it that we are talking to one another, sharing questions and responding to one another. One of the key feedback that we have gathered consistently over the years is that the startup community would benefit greatly if they could better understand market needs. And that is precisely the reason why we are putting together today's reverse pitch, bringing three corporates who all actually have deployed a lot of the best practices in working with startups, as Lalita and Bernard and Ethan have just discussed. I would now like to start the reverse pitch with our close friend and partner from Bolloré Logistics, Fabien. So Bolloré Logistics is a major international supply chain operator and is ranked among the world's top 10 transport and logistic groups, with networks in over 100 countries. So for those of you who are looking at market access, I think 2/3 of the poll respondents ranked market access as the most important factor. I think they would love to hear your thoughts, Fabien. Over to you.
So thank you, Tuan. I would just like to add something is please use the Q&A section that you can access through Zoom. It's the little button with the two chat bubbles just next to the chat button. So please ask your question in there because I have very little time to share a lot of different things to you. So I will try to go both fast and slow, so that I hopefully will get my problem statements clear, because I think this is one of the key things that we have to do today. So thank you, Tuan, for the introduction. So as Tuan mentioned, we basically, our job is basically to move and store stuff from very tiny things to very big things, sometimes actually huge things. One of the questions that Tuan asked me to answer was, why do we want to innovate with the startups? And the point is basically to create value. So value for customers can be also value for staff. And the way that we assess this value is more and more looking at what we call the triple bottom line. So typically not only financial impacts, but also environmental and social impacts. And this is what we do more and more. Actually, I don't have a problem statement on how to calculate your triple bottom line impact, but it's also one of our topics of interest. So sharing here a few concrete innovation that we are working on today. So on the right-hand side is something that is actually live today in our healthcare operation. The video that you can see in the middle part of your screen is something that we are still working on at integrating with our current operations. And hopefully that will come to life quite soon. So before moving to the problem statements, just for you guys to really understand how we operate with startups today. So the first thing you have to know is that our innovation ecosystem is not limited to Singapore. We have a worldwide community of innovators and subject matter experts. So over 100 people now who are involved in this community. And our innovation spans on 5 functional domains, which is supply chain monitoring, operational excellence, how to optimize flows, warehouse automation, and sustainability. So today I'm going to focus mostly on automation and sustainability. and a bit of on-floor optimization as well. And another point that I was asked to do is what kind of collaboration we do with startups. So put again very, very short, because I want to spend as much time as possible on the problem statements. How do we operate with startups? So typically we work on pilots. Sometimes we even fund those pilots or help the startups leverage some funding. In many cases, we also provide development support. So typically from very early stage, so typically TRL 4 to 5, we can already interact with startups and help them, give them this market access and visibility to make sure that the solution is answering our own problem statements. So without further ado, first problem statement, which would be on warehouse automation and what we in-house call light manufacturing. So co-packing is a typical activity that you find more and more in warehouses today. And it's a real challenge to cope with dwindling workforce in Singapore and increasing volume decrease without all this COVID mess. You look at very small batches of products that are pretty fragile, different processes that you have to run one after the other. And where we have two main problems is that it's very hard for us to get very accurate time studies. So time fast what people are doing on a given activity. And it's also very hard to automate because you have, again, a very variable process from one batch to the other. So any kind of solution to help us support that would be very important. Moving on to the next one on sustainability. So I think we're pretty good in limiting our waste and our CO2 emissions already. But we still need to do a lot more. This is probably the challenge of our generation. So right now we are very actively looking at alternative transport modes, alternative fuels. So it can be biofuel or whatever lower CO2 emissions for transportation. We also do generate a lot of waste in operations. We're talking hundreds of tons every year just in Singapore of plastic, carton, wood, and so on. So there are solutions that exist, but they are pretty limited in terms of service. So typically, if you look at the three photos with the check at the bottom of the screen here, you can see reusable stuff that is interesting to use if you have a very closed loop supply chain. The closed loop supply chain is a fraction, so less than 0.1%, I think, of the overall supply chain impact. So we need some innovation in that space to help us use more reusable packing material. Number 3, this is the most complicated I have for you today, and I'm not looking for a solution here. I think I'm looking for a miracle, but if I don't ask, I won't have any answer on that one. So it's about data management. We're honestly not that good at managing data, and I have to be careful what I say today because I have 2 customers that will speak just after me. But we deliver good data to our customers. Let's put it that way. But it's a pretty painstaking process right now because it's too manual. So we're looking at automating our data modeling task. All of the data governance basically needs a lot of support in terms of automation in modeling, building the glossaries, engineering, and so on. Data analytics is also something that is a bit painful for us because we don't have data scientists, let's be honest. When you work in a warehouse or you're a custom officer, you usually have a very small mathematical background, and moving to data analytics is pretty painful. So we're looking for any kind of super easy tool that we can use to get some pretty decent data analytics. There's also something that is very interesting for us. On the bottom of this slide, what you have is a very, very high-level overview of the kind of data architecture that we're looking about, just to illustrate how painful our data modeling is today. Imagine this times each of our operations. And we have, in Singapore, we have like 100 different operations, and they all have different data architecture when you look at the details. So that's it for this one. Hopefully not going too fast. Stopwatch as well here. Finally, my final problem statement for you guys today. How do you digitize 100% analog people? So again, you're working in a warehouse, you do a lot of manual stuff. Obviously, you can benefit from from digitization to be more efficient, get access to information and so on. But for that, with our current environment, you need a device, you need a lot of licenses to get this device working and so on. But we also think that we are not leveraging at full potential low-code platforms today. So basically on the lookout for the perfect low-code platform that is cloud-based, agnostic to devices, safe, of course, interoperable to whatever enterprise system you need to connect it to the APIs or whatever, and very easy to use. So that's all for my problem statements here today. I hope we do have a little bit of time for Q&As. Juan, how do you do this? You want to ask a question and answer them, or?
Right. Very much, Fabien. And members of the audience, you could submit your question directly to the Q&A box, or if you have, if you'd like to try voice question, please raise your hand. We would do so directly. This is a very good opportunity for us to really learn specifically about the problem statement. Fabien, I do have a quick question for you before we go into what the audience may want to ask. So at Bolloré Logistics, you're investing in these innovation solutions. Is there a minimum ROI you're looking to achieve before you make that?
Okay, so this is not an easy question to answer for a number of reasons. First, typically when we do pilot, we are never looking for immediate return on investment on the pilot itself. And the point of the pilot is to see if something works. Then if something works and we need to scale up, then we look at ROI. But typically for pilots, we would invest having hopefully not hurting too much, I'll put it that way. But we wouldn't be looking at return on investment. Then if trying to think back of one of the first thing I mentioned, it's more and more about the triple bottom line. So it's not only return on investments in financial terms. Typically, if you have to pay more to reduce your CO2 emissions, or to have a very nice social impact, then it's also something that is worth looking at. But typically, on our side, we wouldn't look at return on investment before looking at scalability and the full potential of a given solution. If it's a pilot to see if something works, then this wouldn't be our highest priority.
Thanks, Fabien. And we have some questions from Chng and Andre, specifically about your problem statement number 4, or whether you would have a more detailed RFP regarding these problems.
Yeah. Okay, so typically here, let me give you a very concrete example of something that we did, and that is not scaling as fast as we thought, or mostly technical reasons. So there is a very basic need in a warehouse is to know where your container is. You need to load a container to ship the goods. You have a parking lot with the container over there. You need to know where the container is. You need to fetch the container to the right loading bay. We're talking about dozens of different loading bays for a single warehouse. And then you need to make sure that the security at the gatehouse is clearing the container to leave. So we're basically talking about a workflow that you have to set up, but with kind of approvals, a little bit of data, sometimes some pictures, say, okay, this is the container I have, anybody is okay to release it, and so on and so on. So you have a number of very basic functionality that you would find in many workflow management tools. We built an app to do this using Power Apps, so the Microsoft platform. And we are facing a number of technical issues because of security, because the only rules that we set up on ourselves mean that you need a registered device to access this. To use Power Apps, you also need a Microsoft account, and of course, a warehouse foreman or operator that has no computer on a day-to-day basis doesn't have a Microsoft account, because those things cost money. So typically here, what I say, I'm on the lookout for the perfect local platform. This is typically local. I mean, the only smart thing is just the concept of what you have to do, but to code this, you don't need to be a computer genius. Here, a local platform will typically enable you to code the app, release it to whatever device you need to release it to, whatever accounts you need to release it to, and basically you would be good to go. So hope this answers the question.
Thanks, Fabien. It seems like we have a lot of questions inquiring about the specificity of the problem statements. I don't think that we would have all the sufficient time in order to respond to all of this. So what SGInnovate and EDB would do is to consolidate some of these from the audience and share it with you, Fabien, after the event. And likewise, we would also be publishing the problem statements on our website after the event, so that our startup community could continue to study these problem statements. But maybe I just want to quickly bring up the question of problem statement number 2, Fabien, whether you are also looking for a solution for last mile logistics.
Yes, this is definitely something that we are keen in exploring further. So we have done already a little bit in that space. You have to know that we are, for last mile, we work mostly on B2B, so deliveries to malls, shops, other warehouses, and so on. And the others to cover this kind of flow in Singapore are a bit limited. It's not only interested in Singapore, in the whole of APAC is interesting for us in that space. On B2C for last mile deliveries, we usually work with third parties. So typically platforms like Futureforce or SimplyPost that would connect us to all the last mile providers on a case-by-case basis. But yeah, to answer very shortly on last mile delivery, yes, green is the way to go, and we're interested in exploring all green options that you can provide us.
Thank you very much, Fabien. That is amazing to have 4 problem statements in 8 minutes. Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to move on to our next corporate partner, Schneider Electric, and I would like to invite Jill, who is the Transport Director at Schneider Electric, to start sharing with us her problem statements. Jill, please.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we could hear you well, Jill.
Can you move on to the next page? So let me introduce you to Schneider Electric. We are a growing technology company providing energy and automation digital solutions for efficiency and sustainability to our customers around the globe. As you can see, we have 25.2 billion euros in terms of revenue, with about 137,000 employees. We have revenues that are balanced throughout the globe, 29% from North America, 26% Western Europe, 29% from Asia Pacific, and we cover 2 businesses, industrial automation, as well as energy transformation. So that's a little bit about Schneider Electric. Next slide, please. If you can see our global supply chain, we actually start by procuring raw materials from our suppliers. We have close to about 183 factories around the world, and the factories, when they manufacture the goods, we use our forwarders to actually deliver to not only our distribution centers, but to our end customers using last mile delivery local players. In terms of customer, we have 17 segments, and we have close to about 150,000 order lines per day. In terms of transportation, I cover the EAJ region, which is East Asia, Japan, and that covers about 9 countries. On the next slide, Tuan. So the area that I cover is at the bottom under international. It's called EAJ, where we have close to about 17 factories as well as 18 distribution centers, and we have we have a lot of customers that we need to deliver to as well. So if you go on to the next page. So for Schneider Electric, we have transformed ourselves over the last 15 years. with our manufacturing plants, we looked at lean manufacturing. We've transitioned to tailored supply chain, and right now we are on Strive. So let me share a little bit about the Strive program with you, which is on the next slide. So in terms of Strive program, first S stands for sustainability, and we look at reducing our CO2 emission, working with suppliers to reduce close to about 50% of the CO2 footprint. In terms of intelligence, you can see end-to-end collaboration. We work on having end-to-end visibility of our supply chain platform as well. As you can see, we work very closely with our suppliers to simplify and to automate some of our processes. So Strive has been with us. It just started this year, and it will be ongoing for the next few years to try to improve our supply chain. Okay, next slide. So what we've done over the years, you can see in the middle, there's end-to-end control tower. We've set that control tower in 7 regions about 5 years ago. So every milestone that you have on the air freight, ocean freight, cross-border trucking will be on our control tower, so we can actually see at any point in time where our shipments are along our supply chain. But what is an area that we really need to focus on is the middle part where you can see it's circled, the intelligent automation area. And I'll be sharing with you 2 processes that we have that really needs your expertise, whether you can help us automate and improve the supply chain. So the next slide. The first problem statement is, with every shipment we have a bill. For EAJ, we cover close to about 50 million worth of air freight, ocean freight, and as a result, you can see piles and piles of freight bills will appear on our tables, be it through document hard copy, or you can actually see PDF copies. So what we have currently is we have outsourced this operation to staff that will actually verify the bills, the freight bills from our forwarders with our own rate tables. And as a result, this whole process, can take a long time, and we take some time to actually pay our forwarders. So what happens is now with all the freight situation, we are on spot rate. Weekly spot rate could be manual spot rate. So we constantly have, the admin staff looking at, the standard rate table, our spot rate table. We also have local contracts. We have CFS all around EAJ as well. So it's a very complex situation, and we don't see any off-the-shelf FAP solution that can actually manage our problem right now. Because EAJ covers 9 countries, you'll find freight bills in 9 different languages, Vietnamese, Japanese, so that adds to the complexity. We have also different formats coming from different forwarders, and as a result, if you're looking at customs brokerage, you have a lot of back-to-back from the customs, you have port charges. A lot of it is unreceipted. How do we actually verify these documents, these freight bills coming from our brokers and our truckers and our forwarders? So I hope I've painted a picture of the problem that I'm facing in terms of verifying freight bills. The second problem statement, Tuan, can you move on to the next page? Is booking. We have air freight, we have ocean freight forwarders that we book with, even D2C players. As a result, we could have close to about 200 orders that we are actually booking with the forwarders. So what happens now is when we receive, we try to group the orders together using OTM, and we send an email to our forwarder, we send an email to our trucker and our broker to tell them that we are shipping this and this order. Could you book for us the vessel, or could you please book for us the air freight, and bring the container to our warehouse so that we can stuff the container in. So all that is via an email process right now. We are looking for a repository a document repository system where we can upload our commercial invoice, our packing list, even the forwarders, permits, bill of lading into a document repository place. Maybe send pre-alerts automatically to our downstream DC. So, So this is what we're looking for, a platform that all our forwarders, our brokers, and transporters can access, update milestones, provide real-time data as to which flight are we booked on, which bill of lading, and which vessel we're on. So this is what we're facing right now, a very manual process. I'm hoping that this can be digitized and this can be automated such that from the shipper to the consignee, everybody has access to this shipment visibility. I think that's my last slide, Tuan. Well, the next step is, if you're interested, we'll share with you, or you can come and visit our warehouse to understand our current situation, see for yourself all the emails, and the information. We can provide you the data. We can also appoint someone that will support you, walk you through our system and our processes, and hopefully, we can work together on a solution. That's it.
Thank you very much, Jill. I think it is a very clear two problem statements that you have just shared, and it's great that Schneider Electric already has in place a clear process to onboard and provide your the startups access to your data to make
sure.
We do have some questions from the audience for you, Jill.
Sure.
I want to specifically go into this particular one for your problem statement number 2. Do you expect that the third parties would already have their own platform, or are you looking at are you looking to provide the third parties the full digital tool?
I couldn't quite hear you. You broke up at the end.
My apology, Jill. So the question is from Olivia Adam. So for problem statement number 2,
yes,
do you expect that the third parties would already have their own platform, TMS or OMS, or a mostly manual, and you want to provide them with a full digital toolkit?
Yes, I would like a full digital toolkit. We've looked at some of the OMS, TMS out there, and a lot of it does not meet our requirements. So we would like to maybe customize some of it, for working with a partner to customize and some of our requirements into this platform.
Great, and I think Darshan also has a suggestion that blockchain could actually be a good technology that could potentially help to address
sure.
your needs here. Thanks for that, Darshan. I do have just one more question for you, Jill. So from your experience at Schneider Electric, how should startups make it easy for you to work with them?
I feel if they have a solution, listen to our requirements, and maybe help develop the solution together, map it out, and kind of develop the tool together. And as we go along, expand the features such that, we can actually cover the entire supply chain.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And we do have a lot of questions about how to reach out to Fabien and Jill, and so perhaps Essam later. So I think Jill has actually put her email address on the slide, the last slide, I believe. And
sure.
We would also, SGInnovate and EDB would also act as the bridge to connect relevant startups with you, Jill, should we find that they would potentially have good solutions for you to consider.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, now we are going to hear from Essam from Unilever. Thank you very much, Essam and the Unilever Foundry team for taking part in our reverse pitch today. And now I would like to pass the time to you. Essam, please.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to join this reverse pitch session and to be my first connection with the Singapore hub. In fact, I'm on vacation, but I just joined because of the importance of this to the Unilever and to the industry as well. I'm based in Netherlands, but I'm joining from today, just as a correction. Okay, so let me start then. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, it's all good, Essam.
Great. So first of all, let me introduce who are we as Unilever. So we're a company of brands and people. So we care a lot about the people, the brands, the environment, the consumers as well. And the sustainability of the environment is one of our top agenda. And our purpose is to make a sustainable living commonplace. So overall, we have almost 400 household name brands. We work in more than 190 countries over the world, where we have 2.5 billion people uses our products every day. And almost 81% of our brands are in the top 2 in their markets. Just in a nutshell, who are we as Unilever? And as Unilever Foundry, simply Unilever Foundry is the Southeast Asia corporate innovator, which is helping to Unilever to grow and to do the right partnering with nimble startups, with tech giants, and to future-proof Unilever and the communities that we serve and operate in. So if you look at the 2021 growth and good impact pillars, so we're looking for unlocking our valued micro partners, product and supply chain revitalizations, and to ignite brand fire. If we go more focused on the supply chain logistics innovation, so we look at it as it is circular, since it will definitely impact and reverb across all the entire value chain. So in other words, the supply chain, and specifically in logistics, we believe that we are in a very integrated model with the whole value chain, and accordingly, it needs to be up to the level to fit into the digital ecosystem and all the changes that are happening around us. And as was in the introduction video, the only certain thing about future that it is uncertain. So resilience and agility is an essential and vital pillar that we are looking at. I'm going to go first to the problem statement. So the one that we have here is about how we can integrate our management systems. So if you look at the moments, we have a lot of management system in the logistics, either in the warehouse management system, the transportation management system, or even the yard management system. And the reality is it's not 100% integrated. And it's important that we have the data flow through the whole logistics platforms in order to get and extract the best value out of it and unlock the digital transformation. So this is the first problem statement that we have in Unilever in Logistics Global. And we are seeking to see some of proposals from some startups related kind of integrator that can help to improve the data flow between those systems. The second one is if you look at how it's dynamic in the last, I'd say like 5 years, and this dynamic environment have changed a lot and reshaped the customer demand. And accordingly, they need specific product in the right delivery destination, in a specific delivery window, and they are becoming more specific, and they ask more, not about the product itself, but how it is delivered to them. And accordingly, all the processes in our distribution centers, either it's a put away or a picking or a pallet building, have to meet those expectations and have to be, as I said, like agile enough to cater for this requirement. And accordingly, this will improve our logistics efficiency. Hence, we are looking for a warehouse slotting solution, considering the demand trend. For people who don't know what does it mean as a warehouse slotting, slotting is how we put our warehouses, how we arrange our warehouse in a way that the products will be arranged or stacked in a way that we can pick it in a quicker time and in a more efficient way. The third problem statement here is about, it's a bigger idea that always came to my mind as well, that if you look on the total picture, if you visualize how the goods are transported at the moment, so at any point of time, you will find that there is a truck offloading goods, and there is another, and it is having an empty returning trip that they have to go back to their depot or to their source where they came from. And at the same time, there is another company that they are looking to book a truck, and they may be struggling with that, doing spot buying, as have been mentioned in the earlier slides from other colleagues, or it is having their own contracted transporters. But the reality is we are releasing a lot of carbon dioxide to our environment. And accordingly, we are not doing the best for our future generations and to our planet as well. And what I'm looking for here is to have a kind of platform that it can allow this kind of shared resources or shared economy. And this platform can pick those empty trucks, understanding their lanes, having this kind of algorithm that can build the chances of the opportunity and top it up either to Unilever or to others. So we can integrate our resources together and assure that we don't have empty trucks on the road, either from Unilever or from any other company. And accordingly, we improve our impact on the environment, plus having more efficient resources and having definitely a better cost base for that. So these are my three problem statements that I am sharing with you here. And if you have any idea, if you have anything you want to share, you want to discuss, I really encourage you to get in contact with Kailayan from Unilever Foundry. And this is the email for Kailayan over there. And I think it will be shared later as well. But at the moment, we have a lot of connections with startups for different problems. And we definitely believe that this is the way forward. And that's why we are here. That's from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Essam. Yes, I think Kailin and Lucius and Tamin from the Unilever Foundry team here in Singapore have been great in working with us, and we look forward to continuing to do so with Kailin on any of these problem statements. I do just have one question for you, Essam. The slide, your last slide actually show that Unilever is looking for early stage startups. What would be an early stage startup to you, and why is there a particular focus on early stage startups?
No, thank you. Thanks. It's a very good question. So in fact, we are looking for early stage startups, and we're looking even for a more mature model for startups. But when you have an early stage startup, then they are in a different, how can I say, level of flexibility and agility, and they need more the support of the big companies like Unilever. And if I go back in the last 50 minutes for one of the in the introductions, that it goes both ways. We cannot integrate into this digital ecosystem without having this integration between the big corporates and the startups. And the earlier this integration is happening, the better for the whole digital ecosystem. That's my view.
Thanks a lot, Essam. And we also have received a couple more questions from the audience regarding the problem statements that you have just shared. I want to just highlight the particular question from Thorstein. For both problem statements 2 and 3, software algorithms should have been explored before by Unilever. He just wants to understand what it is that Unilever may have looked into regarding to address problem statements 2 and 3 on your end so far.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. It's a great question. So specifically for 2, yeah, definitely that's not something that just popped up today. It's been in the table for a long time, and we've been exploring different opportunities and different tech giants that have been in this game. And we see a lot of very good solutions as well. But again, taking it with the tech giant, sometimes you have a lot of other challenges as well, like between flexible and being agile, being able to tailor some solutions and technologies to cater to our problems and cater for our IT infrastructure as well. And the reality is, if you go to this with a startup, then it's much easier that they can help shape a platform or a solution that can be used. Although with the big giants, sometimes you need to fit into the solution rather than having a solution that fits to solve your problem. That's specifically for 2. For 3, I don't think that we explored it as much as we did for 2. So this is something I believe it doesn't need to have Unilever alone, but maybe with some other partners, even some transporters, some other companies from different industries, it can be over there. So I think this is a bigger idea where we all work together to improve our impact on the environment. And I didn't see anything on that before. Maybe there's something happening that I'm not aware of. I'll be very happy to be contacted through Thailand to see what are the already available solutions for this.
That's great, Essam. We will do so. In fact, some startups have already indicated in the chat that they have good solutions for problem statement 1, for example. So we would do that work to link you up, you and Kylin up with some of these relevant startups from Singapore and Asia. All right, I would now like to bring our event to a close. We spent in total 1 hour, 15 minutes hearing from 8 amazing speakers today, and we have had 9 problem statements in total. We've got almost 180 unique viewers tuning in throughout the session. So what would happen next is even more important. SGInnovate and our partner EDB would like to share the problem statements that we have got today from Bolloré Logistics, Schneider Electric, and Unilever on our channels, and we would act as a bridge to create to connect the right startups with our corporate partners here, and we hope that some levels of pilot or collaborations would take place, and that is the ultimate outcome that we are looking for. I would also like to share that the full recording of this event will also be published on our YouTube channel shortly enough. So do look out for our event email from SGInnovate after the session today. In the next couple of months, SGInnovate and EDB aim to organize similar reverse pitch sessions in other industries such as advanced manufacturing, sustainability, healthcare, or even agri-food tech. So we hope that the open innovation community would continue to grow and thrive, and excellent best practices can continue to be shared, and great pilots can be achieved. With that, I would like to thank our partners from EDB, as well as all of our speakers today, Dr. Lim Jui, Kai Fong, Bernard, Lalitha, Ethan, and especially to our 3 corporate presenters, Fabien, Jill, as well as Essam, for all the great insights that you have shared with us today. I would like to also thank everyone who stayed tuned until the end of the session, and do send us your feedback so that we could also make it better for the community in the future. With that, I would like to close the event today and wish you a good evening ahead. Of course, Essam, you have a longer day ahead in Dubai over there, so enjoy your holiday there too. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye. Have